Good afternoon. So in this video we are going to look at how you carry out a procedure called ground staining. It's a rather old-fashioned procedure, but basically the idea is that when this procedure is carried out, it will dye the bacteria that we are studying either pink or purple. That depends on their cell wall structure. And this has two purposes. The first is that you can see them when you look down the microscope because bacteria are colourless, and if you see them, you obviously need to colour them somehow. The other reason we do it is that we can find out which of the two types of cell wall structures the bacteria have according to which colour they turn. And you'll find some more information about that in the rest of this lesson on the Google Classroom. Right, so we are going to carry out the gram stain procedure on these M. luteus bacteria. So first of all, we need to get a microscope slide. Make sure you handle it by the edges, because if you put your fingers on the actual slide, you will leave grease behind, and that will stop the dyes and the bacteria properly sticking. I've wiped down my table with disinfectant before I started, and of course I keep disinfectant and a Bunsen burner beside my workstation at all times when I'm working with live microorganisms. Okay, so I first of all need to use a wire loop to put a small drop of the bacteria onto the slide. So I need to follow sterile proceedings as we've learned. So first I will sterilise the loop. Blue flame for metal, remember. Make sure it becomes red hot. Leave it to cool very briefly next to a safety flame, because obviously if you put a red hot loop into a bacteria, you'll have dead bacteria. Okay, so remembering the rules for handling cultures, which we've discussed in a previous video, we will take a sample with the wire loop and smear it in the centre of the slide. You don't need to spread it over the whole slide. Then obviously before I do anything else, I need to sterilise my loop again in the blue flame to kill the bacteria. Okay. Right, now I've got a slide with a drop of bacteria on. If I were to try to stain this right now, it'd just wash off. So what I have to do is what they call fix the smear. And basically it means cook it onto the slide. So pass it through the Bunsen flame to warm up the slide and evaporate the culture medium. So all those times when you were at school and your teacher told you off for putting your hands through the Bunsen flame, this is the one experiment where you're allowed to do it and you don't get shouted at. It takes a while. Obviously there's a trick to it. If you move the slide too slowly, you burn yourself, and then you say ow and drop the slide and it breaks. If you go, then obviously you won't heat it up at all. Okay. So once that is dry, you need to pass it through maybe half a dozen times more. Through the safety flame, of course, because a blue flame will crack glass, not to mention burning your fingers. And passing it through the flame a few more times after it's dry almost seems to cook it on. They call it, as I say, fixing the smear. If you don't heat it enough after it's dry, then it will just wash off. Right, so I've fixed my smear of bacteria. Now before I carry on with the actual procedure for dyeing the bacteria, I need to turn my Bunsen off because the dyes are flammable. So it's really important that you turn off your Bunsen before beginning the next section. Right, okay, I have here the materials which I need to dye these bacteria. And this ideally needs to be done over a sink, because obviously you're going to need to wash the various things off, and to do that you need a sink and running water. It's possible to use a wash bottle of deionised water, but we don't really need to, because the water doesn't have to be chemically pure. Tap water will do. Okay, so there are 4 chemicals required for this procedure. The first one we are going to use is called crystal violet, or sometimes methyl violet. And we need to add some to the smear. You don't need to cover the whole slide, just the area where the bacteria are. Now, if I was doing this for real, I would leave this for 5 minutes. Okay, the methyl violet needs to stay on for 5 minutes, but you don't want to sit and watch paint dry for 5 minutes. So I will tip this off, stand my slide on here, and add grams iodine. This works to kind of fix the dye, make it permanent. So we add just a drop of that, and we wait this time for 30 seconds. Then we have to start washing it off. And we wash it off with ethanol. Now this is the bit where there's a bit of a knack to it. My students always say to me, how much ethanol? How long do I wash it for? And the answer is, it's not an amount of ethanol or a particular quantity of time. What you have to do is you have to wash it till most of the purple gunk is off. This is the bit where it quite often goes wrong, because if you overdo it, then you end up washing the purple off entirely and you're back to see-through bacteria. If you underdo it, then when you look down your microscope at the end of the practical, you will see absolutely nothing except loads of purple gunk. So the idea is to wash it until you don't see visible chunks of purple gunk. Okay? So what we've done now is we have added the purple dye and the fixer, which is the iodine. Then we've tried to wash the purple dye off. Now, whether we succeed or not depends on the type of cell wall that the bacteria have. So what we've got now, depending on the type of bacteria, is we've either got see-through colourless bacteria because we've washed all the purple stuff out of them, or we've got purple bacteria. Okay, so far so good. Our final step is we need something to show up the colourless bacteria, so we're going to use a different dye, that's the same dye, try again, a different dye, safranine. So, this is a pink coloured dye, and again you just need to put it where you put the bacteria, it doesn't need to go all over. This one wants to go all over, back there, better. So you only need to put it where the bacteria are, ideally, and we leave this, depending on the book you read. I think most books say 2 minutes, other books say 1 minute. Now the important thing here is when your 1 minute is up, you need to wash this off with water. The tap will do, not ethanol. Now obviously if you turn your tap on like that and put your slide under it, you're just going to wash everything off, including the bacteria. You need to have your tap just trickling. Not dripping, just trickling like that. Wash your slide till all the obvious pink dye is off. Then wash out your sink, or the lab tech will kill us all. Right, so here we go. We've now got our slide, it's very wet. We can kind of pat dry the underneath of the slide, we can wipe, and the edges where the bacteria can't, but don't wipe the middle where you put the bacteria. You simply have to wiggle the bacteria around and wave your arms around and look really silly until you have succeeded in drying it off. When you've done that, here's one I didn't prepare earlier, but I'm not going to put a wet slide on my microscope. When you have waved your slide around so it's completely dry, then you can use your microscope to observe the colour of the bacteria. So, sure you're looking through the right bit. And the idea is when you look down here and get your bacteria in focus, you will see either little pink bacteria or little dark purple bacteria. It worked. It's notorious for not working, but don't tell anyone. Right, okay, so that's essentially the method for carrying out gram stain. One moment, I just need to end this recording because my computer is timed out. Talk among yourselves. Okay, thanks for watching. I will see you in the next video.